Good afternoon, everybody. I'm TerryTopCat for TerryTopCat Purrsents, and I'm with the wonderful Roy Jenkins from Noise Merch. How are you, Roy? Good afternoon.
Very well. Yeah, very well indeed. Yourself?
Good. Great to see you not in a gig environment, because
nice.
we always see. Well, actually, we'll start off like you do a lot of merchandise for lots of bands like Big Country, Echo and the Bunnymen, Skunk Anansie, Adamant. And when I went to see Adamant, and then I just saw you there, and I was like, Roy! So that was a nice surprise. And you were lovely to me, and when we had dinner all together, and that was cool.
Yeah. Well, every time I see it, it's always interesting, because you're always, I know you're a massive music fan. So it's really
like
good.
you are, I'm sure, which we'll get into.
Yeah, it's a really good thing when you meet people. I think when you've been touring for a long time, you go into different places, and it's nice to see
familiar faces.
Yeah, familiar faces, and it's kind of weird. At first, you know the right ones to speak to, and I don't mean that rudely, but if you start speaking to some people, then next minute they want to meet other people, and I'm not into that. I meet the people.
Or they want to meet the artist through you, which
That's
I'm sure you get. Yeah.
I seem to be the last port of call. Like in America when I was there was all these people there wanting to have their picture taken with me, come out, and I'm like, oh God, what time? It's nice and the thing, but I'm not really into be wanting to do it. And over a period of time, it became funny. And then one of them set up on Facebook, one of the American women, they're kind of, obviously different to English women, and they wanted to set up to be really nice and set up this fan club. So they put this Roy Jenkins fan club on Facebook.
Did they?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, it's really sweet you want to do that, but my mates are going to rip the piss out of me. And the guy set up, and it was just like something, but that's lovely. The same as with obviously I've got kids that and one day someone found out that summer likes snow globes. So I'm in America, and I don't know how the hell I was going to get back, but it was really lovely. And I had maybe 50 snow globes.
Well,
so people are sweet, I get really nice. I've had a pair of those Clash boots. I had a pair of Clash boots bought for me once.
That's
Someone
very
bought
cool.
them. I was like, well, I had to pay for it. I went to pay for them because I didn't want free gifts. But someone ended up. But how they know my size? It's weird. It's very weird. How they know your size?
Weird, actually.
And then they got a pair of these boots who arrive, and they're thinking, oh God. And I'm looking them up, and I'm thinking that's very nice, but I can't accept that.
Well, that's very noble.
It cost me 175 quid. I think it cost me.
Well, I'm sure. We'll talk about. Let's talk about music and how you first got into music. So, do you have any brothers and sisters at all? Or?
Yeah, I have a brother who's 3 years older, and then I have another brother who's 8 years younger than me, and they're both fanatical music heads. And they're both, in as much as they're just. My older brother was into the Who, big time.
Okay.
All the rock stuff, and back in the day, I was born in the 60s, 66. So back in that day, there was a kind of thing, you liked one type of music, even though everybody didn't, as we found out. But I was never really, punk rock was my thing, but my older brother liked the Who and, Queen and the Stones and all that stuff. So when I came to London, I came and stayed with him, and we're both doing dispatch riding, and he took me to see a lot of bands which I probably never would have went to see. So I was at Live Aid.
I went to Live Aid. That was a good gig.
Yeah. So to actually have been there now, my daughter's like, oh God.
Yeah.
I went to see Queen, which is probably one of the best live bands I've ever seen.
I agree with you.
So and then there was another guy when I was doing dispatch riding who used to go up to all the rock concerts, and so I used to go and see like every band that you can think of, like White Snakes, everything. Def Leppard, Black Sabbath, I saw all the Aussie stuff on the solo stuff. So I was always. You just said, when did I get into music? I was born. I first got into stuff like dodgy stuff. Funny enough, it's come out now, like Gary Glitter. But
I love this music too, and then it's very catchy, melodic, and then.
Oh yeah. Well, the same. The funny thing was that I got into like him and Sweet, and I used to be into all that glam stuff. And I actually set up the first band I kind of got into was me and this guy who's a drummer, and his dad was Mick O'Halloran, who was the roadie or the tour manager for Mark Boland. So I had all these connections all the way through, and when I was brought up on, my parents are both Scottish, and I was brought up on the Isle of Wight, so it was kind of, in those days, it was kind of like you're out on your own.
Did you ever go to the Isle of Wight festival when you were younger?
No, I missed that. I moved to the Isle of Wight in 71.
Okay.
So I was 5, on my birthday. Funny enough. But yeah, I kind of went there, but I was there and there was like really not much music scene happening. First band I saw was Crass what I'd class as a big band was Crass at the Babaloo in Ryde. And then I managed to get over to Portsmouth to see Hazel O'Connor.
Oh, I love
which
Hazel
was
O'Connor.
Fucking real, man.
So that's like in the early 80s?
Yeah, I'd have to check my dates.
Okay.
79, 80.
Well, at the height of her fame and stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Will You was
I love that
hit.
song,
So
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
Will You was out. And subsequently, funny enough, I got to meet the saxophone player years later, who was a lovely guy. So I met him. So, all the way along there's been these little things. I keep bumping into people and, come across. And basically, most of my merch bands I work with are all my record collection.
How that must be so amazing. I mean,
It is. And I think, because I was also in a band years ago myself, when you come up...
Oh, really? What did you play?
Played around. I played the drums.
Okay.
And I kind of like set up the management company side of things with it, with a couple of people, and and I was kind of I was in that. So I've done that for 7 years. So, and that, funny enough, then brought me into the city. So I manage a band called Fields of Nephilim now.
Oh, you managed them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met Carl and the rest of the guys through touring with them back in late 80s. Oh, you're always rubbish with dates now. Late 80s, early 90s.
And they were really popular back then as well. Yeah.
We're just about to do a couple of shows next week.
One in Leicester, I believe.
Yes, Leicester, Whitby, and then later on in the year, at the end, they're doing the Nephilim album at Shepherd's Bush. We're doing it in Edinburgh, and we're doing it in Come Along.
Okay, I've never seen them. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we're doing it in Manchester as well. And so there's 3 shows. So I kind of end up managing that, and then I managed another band before that as well, which I took to America. I found in Ireland to come over for a friend, and then they were really doing a lot. People wanted. I had a lot of A&R interest over here, but they didn't have the money. They were just wanting to give bands, indie bands 15, I think it was 15 grand at the time. And it was like, well, what are they going to be, postmen? So, funny enough, I went over to the States. And when I went to the States, and I got them the figure I wanted. And
Good.
I signed them up to a subsidiary of Universal.
Great.
So it's done all right. So that was, I kept doing that. And then through that band, me and my business partner, we set up Noise Merchandise. So we already had Noise Management Limited, which is our big company, and in Noise Merchandise we set that up. And then what happened was the band sacked us, as they do. So what we did is we carried on doing the merch, because we thought, right, I don't really want to work with artists, which is a bit of a silly move when you're doing merch. You end up working with more
absolutely.
artists. So that was how I evolved into all that. But music, I just my kids are into music, my son's doing stuff, my daughter's doing stuff. I just think it's in your blood. You either, like yourself, you
absolutely,
just live and die,
live and die. Your real passion is punk music. So when was the first, punk band you saw? Why you like punk? The attitude. Because I know you're always going on about the Pistols and the Clash, but especially the Sex Pistols.
Yeah. Sex Pistols just changed my life, really. When it came along, I was this guy, like I say, as a little kid on the Isle of Wight, and all they kind of offered you was the Navy or the Army, and I wasn't in there. I was a pacifist even back in those days, and I was like, no, I'm not wanting to be doing this. And then punk rock come along, and I was like, whoa, this is me. I've got to go and see this. And then, funny enough, actually, quite a big influence on me was Stiff Little Fingers, because they sung about Tin Soldier. And about people not signing up, and they were complete pacifists as well, I believe. So a lot of their songs were like all about, you're not into football, you're into music and all this. And I remember looking at I can't remember the name of the bloody record now, but their stuff. I'd reading these lyrics, and I was like, oh my God, there's people out there that think like me. Because when you're on the island, you just I was just like
no entertainment or what to do.
Yeah. And I kind of, the funny thing as well, which I think nowadays with my children, whatever they wanted to do, I'd just work out where they were going and try and help them out. But back in the day, my dad was worked at a radar station, and I actually think that I probably was into designing clothes, which subsequently is what I do now,
right?
In a roundabout way, because I was always drawing, I was always interested in the clothes. So the whole punk thing. But back in those days, you couldn't. If I went to my dad and said I want to design clothes, they were like, really?
So talking about your clothes, I did remark before we started, I love the Westwood jean jacket you got on and the fucker hat. That's really cool as well. So which was the first, did you see the Pistols live at all?
I didn't see the Pistols live until Finsbury Park.
Oh, okay. When they reformed.
I know I look old, but I'm not that kind. I'm not quite that age. But yeah, no, I saw them there, and then I saw every gig they did.
Great.
Well, in the UK anyway, I went to every. Like when they played Brixton, I went 5 nights.
Great.
You know, I just like mad. I'm like, you know.
And
crazy.
you said you saw the Clash of the Combat Rock about 84.
I happened to be in Edinburgh. I went when I left home. I got thrown out of school, and then I basically went to France, and I hitched around France for a while back in the day, and then I ended up in Edinburgh. So my relatives are from Edinburgh, so I went to Edinburgh, and I went on. I remember it was funny because I went on a C&D march. And I was on the front of the paper, and my dad was going mental. He's going, "You're never going to get a job," you know. And then I got my first tattoo, like a Grim Reaper, which I've still got, but bigger, and I had Destroy over the top of it from the pistol. So yeah, it was just different.
Well, just you and you expressing yourself, you know.
But back in that day, they saw you as just a complete waster. Yeah. And the Clash happened to be playing at the Playhouse, so I went to it, and wow, you know, now to have seen the Clash on Compact Rock Tour. It's just phenomenal for me, you know. So, yeah, I went to see them. So, you know, that was my first thing of. So that was probably really, when I think about it, one of my major first punk bands. But like before, I'd seen Crass, and then Hazel O'Connor got the bug. You know? Right. I was just always all I do is buy records. You know,
do you?
Like, so yeah, no, you know, when I was back in the day, I would be like, I think you had to put, oh God, I don't remember how much it would cost, but I've had to put 5p down, or 15p, or 25p.
I love that.
You know, I got the Anti-Noah League, because I often think back, listen, how did we know? You know, the Anti-Noah League, I went to see them at the Lyceum, was phenomenal, absolutely, and the bloke animal was so scary. You know, to me, that was the funny thing, is I went to the gigs by myself.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
When I came to London, it was just after the riots in Brixton. And I had this little scooter, and I was living out somewhere in Hornchurch or so in Essex, and I came into town to the Ace in Brixton, and I went and saw Bow Wow Wow, and I was like,
another great band. So that leads nicely to Adam and the Ants and Adam Ant. So did you ever see Adam and the Ants back in the day?
No. First time I saw Adam Ant was in Shepherd's Bush. Is it Shepherd's Bush Hall in 2011?
Yes. Okay.
And it was funny because the funny thing about it was, again, you know, he was another person, you know, that I grew up with. Funny enough, when I left, about a year before I left, or maybe it was a year at the same, 1980 or whatever it is, I lose track of the time. It was around 80, 81. When he was on the front page of every paper, I was doing a paper round. So I'm reading this guy, I'm thinking, he's fucking amazing. And of course he had the video, and then, you know, Dog Eat Dog, still to this day, is one of my favourite records, you know. So yeah, I got through a friend of a friend. They put my name up for doing the merch, and I got invited down to that gig, and I went there, and it was funny because I had listened to Dirk. You know, it wasn't my favourite.
Not my favourite, to be honest, either.
But you know, there was certain ones that I liked. You know, Car Trouble and then this stuff, and then obviously the ones, you know, Dog Eat Dog, Prince Charming, you know, stuff like that. But I actually stood there, and I was there for about an hour and a half. And I was like, oh my God. And the time had gone, and I knew every song. So how that happens, I don't know. But then I was just like, whoa. And then I started, I went out on tour with him. And I'm still there, really. And, you know, it's lovely.
So it's like 11 years later.
Yeah, it's lovely to work for.
So do you have any, so Adam's a very creative guy. Do you have any input in the design of his T-shirts, or how much collaboration is there with Adam, or has he come up with an idea and then you just talk with him or liaise with him and see what kind of merchandise to sell?
Yeah, he's a designer, so you know, he'll draw it all out, and he'll say, right, this is what I want there, and then my input really is the garments, and then placing his artwork, making that happen onto T-shirts, etc. But you know, he creates all the images, you know, and he wants his like signature here, so everything really, that side of thing is all him. You know, he does all the designs, really. And
do you have much input with any of the other acts at all, or it all depends on the artist?
It varies, really, because it's sort of like, you know, it's their stuff. So my input really is just like I say, I think I'm just the end bit that they go, look, I want it on a T-shirt, and I make it on a T-shirt. A lot of it is really all their sort of artwork, you know. But sometimes we have to design the artwork, and then, you know, there's things like you might want heat-resistant ink or day glow. Like we've just done some T-shirts, funny enough, for Steve Davis.
The snooker player?
Yeah, he does raves. And
I heard.
So they have all these day glow shirts for him. It's great, you know. So,
So
you know,
for,
it's all different.
oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's all that, and now as things have moved on from when I first started it, you've got like neck labels, so you can take out the labels. A lot of T-shirts are designed to take out the labels, and then we can print in their label, and then so they've got a clothes one.
So it must be very different from when you first started to now in terms of the material and okay. So let's for someone who doesn't know, and I didn't really know. So let's say an artist like Adamant or Skunk Anansi is another favourite of mine. They approach you, they want you to do, or you working with them. How does it work? The T-shirt, the hoodies, the mugs, whatever merchandise they want to sell. So how does it work in terms of monetary for you, for them, without going into too much detail?
Yeah, no. Well, the thing about it is Noise Merch. We're an independent company, so it's me and another guy, Roger, who just we set up the company. And basically what we did is we set up a different model than everyone else or what was out there. So we...
What is out there? So what compared to...
So for like, say someone like Billie Eilish, for instance, when she came into town, I'd done her merch to start off with. And then obviously, you know, and I did also Charlie XCX and people like that then go on to a big record company and obviously get a big advance. So their merch is, you know...
Is that connected of their contract?
Well, now,
would you think,
again, you're asking to change. Years ago, it didn't be.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But once the record companies weren't selling records, they all buy into it. So you got the 360 deals. So they're kind of, that's part of their contract. Not always, but it's part of their contract. So for me, being into clothes and whatever, I think you lose a bit of the quality of the product because in the end, they have to go with... they don't have to go, but there's certain perimeters where the merch companies who buy those rights maybe not want to go to different places, but it could be argued that they go better. You know, it's a much of a muchness. For me, I have a lot of clients that have been with me for 10 years and more because they phone me up and speak to me, you know, 24/7, wherever I am or whatever, and I basically don't pay them anything up front. I manufacture their clothes and the money goes to them.
Okay.
So they make all the money, which is the way it should be.
Yeah,
so it's just punk rock. So I just created that whole scene, which is, you know, other people do it. It's just that, you know, we don't take a cut of their money. You know, if we do a job, we get paid for it. You know, I need to pay people like to send their shirts out and package their shirts out. So I'm not saying we do it for free, but we don't. However, the band get the lion's share of the money because it's their money.
And as you know, the music industry is so different to like it was before.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you go on the road a lot. So sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do.
Because the band I see you with it. But no, I kind of choose who I go on the road with really. And then the thing was when I started working with Adam, I went out on the road and it was kind of like part of the deal. He wanted me out there, and he's very loyal. Or that group is loyal to his.
It's a lovely bunch of people.
Yeah. So those people kind of move all over the place. So that was kind of like a family. So I started going out because basically I was out touring in bands. Again, when I hit London, I started, you know, after I gave up dispatch riding, I became a manager and I was in a band and then became a manager. So I toured all the time. Then I settled. Well, I've never settled down. I met Jerry, and you know, and I had a kid with her, and I decided, right, I'll go and work for a company for a little while because I'd never worked for anybody, and that didn't last too long. And then basically I had the situation where I was at home with the children and I was going home, and that lasted. So J-Rock, my son's 8 and my daughter Summer, I stayed at home because when J-Rock, I used to see him at night and spend a lot of time at the weekends and that, and suddenly he was 5. I took him to school and his second day's cuddling date said, "You don't have to cuddle me, Dad." And I'm like, oh God, you know. So when I had my daughter, I decided, right, I'm just staying at home. So I worked at home with her, climbing over my head, which, you know, annoying. She still does.
But you see her grow up, and you see,
still does the same thing, but not, you know, not physically, but you know, still they, you know, there all the time. And then what happened is that we did a Bill Bailey tour. So we got big.
It's a very diverse clientele you have.
Yeah, we've done National Geographics. You know, we've done Cirque du Soleil. We've done a lot of different stuff. But when Bill Bailey came out, we went out on that tour. So I went out, and that was the first time I went out, probably in 8 years, I guess. And then I phoned my kids up when I got to Manchester, missing them, and they were like passing me on to each other one because they weren't bothered. And I thought, actually, if I could just be out.
But like you said, with the Adam crew, it's very much like a family, like Skunk and Nancy, because they're lovely people as well, you know. So
amazing people to work with, and Ace again does all the design. So
yes,
he'll come over and say, "Here, look, this is what I want." They know their T-shirts. So I kind of just I become part of their setup, but they don't have to employ me in their office. And they go, right, this is what I want, and I go, oh, what about this, or what about that, or try this, or try that. But you know, I don't really take any, or want to take any claim for any design stuff.
Sure.
You know, I might tell them what's a good shirt to go on, or how to put it on there better. But
so we're coming up to the end of the interview. So is there any artists that you would love to work with? I know you're a big fan of the Pistols and Steve Jones. Is that, you know, and big shout out to Paul Cook and Jenny Cook, because I know Jenny Cook watches these interviews. So big love to you guys.
No, if I could do, I actually sent T-shirts to Steve Jones.
Yeah, you told me this.
So that made my day. I just want to meet him. I've done probably all the artists that I really, you know, if I did Public Image or something, I'd be happy. But you know. I've kind of been really, really lucky to work with all the artists, you know, from The Alarm, like you say, Big Country, you know, it goes on.
Adam Skunk. And big plug for the band's gigs coming up.
Yeah, Fields of Nephilim, do you want to come and see them? Got gigs in December, playing Manchester, London and Edinburgh.
For someone for seeing them first time, what would I expect? Because I'm not really familiar with their music, so...
That was an amazing live act.
Okay,
it's really good.
Great.
Smoke, lots of smoke.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very atmospheric and very, no, it's good. I'm surprised you haven't seen them.
COVID must have hit you really hard because, you know, but then you got your company home, you're selling all the merch from your offices.
Well, what happened is that I ended up going down to the office, and because I was all used to being on a tour bus or touring, I moved into the office, had a gym next door that I went and showered, and I thought, right, that's it. And so I just moved in there and I digitally print, and so I did stuff for people online.
Great.
So, you know, like The Alarm did a show for the fans every weekend.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What we used to do is they'd sell T-shirts, and I'd make the T-shirts. We even make them some cushions. You know, so it just changed completely. So people were just doing more, and I was already set up to do digital.
Great.
So so it did affect me. It affected everybody, but you know, I got through it. I think you never know. Do you? But every day you're every day it is what it is.
So Roy, your company is called Noise Merchandise. Where can they find? You're obviously online a lot. So if an artist wants to contact you, what's the best way? On Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Instagram.
Your website?
I've got a website which is www.noisemerch.com. You can find us of any of the artists that I've mentioned, because with a lot of stores we run for them. So I'm on there, and I'm on Instagram as Roy Noise.
That's right.
Or Roy Noise Merch. I don't know. Yeah. So any Noise merchandise.
Thank you so much for your time, Roy. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
TerryTopCat for Clusterview.com, TerryTopCat presents, and with the wonderful Roy Jenkins.